AITA for lashing out after my husband ruined the food I prepared for our guests. Me F26 and my husband male, 33 Mike have been married for a year now. He does not cook, he is bad at it. His cooking is the worst despite learning from books videos me teaching him. It just never works. Every time he steps a foot into the kitchen it turns into a mess. I do not know how. He does not know how. Maybe because he is constantly busy with work, police officer, and is used to fast food. But he is good at other things. So we've agreed that I handle cooking, he handles chores. Everything was going well. However, recently he has been getting involved in my cooking, basically making comments about what ingredients I should not add, and I try to take it under consideration but only if he is being reasonable. Lately he has been waiting for when I prepare dinner or lunch, then sneaks in and add extra salt, pepper, spices, other ingredients that completely ruin the meal. First it was a mystery to me, had me questioning myself, why I added too much salt or spices. He admitted he was the one adding extra ingredients and messing up my cooking. The meals are no longer eatable. I've told him to not try to get involved in something he does not have experience with. I've basically been eating out for a week now because of him. Last night we had my family visiting. I took the entire day preparing meals. He helped out by going to the grocery stores. I noticed he bought stuff from the grocery store that I wasn't allowed to see. I figure probably some snacks. As we were about to eat dinner, my mom and dad suddenly looked grossed out and said they could not eat cause the food had so much salt in it. I was confused. I asked them to try another dish which was too spicy for them to eat. My dad had an upset stomach and he almost threw up. He has high blood pressure and salt wasn't good for him. Mike kept acting confused. My mom and dad could not eat anything I made. I knew Mike had something to do with it. My parents left and I felt ashamed. I asked Mike, then I blew up after he admitted he went behind my back to add ingredients that he thought were gonna make my food better. I lashed out at him, told him he ruined my work after spending hours and made my parents feel uncomfortable. Adding too much salt knowing my dad has high blood pressure. He argued that he was just trying to help, and thought our food will be better, so I should not yell at him. And my parents didn't say anything, so it wasn't that bad. I told him he should not have done this, but he refused to acknowledge he did anything wrong, then went out to meet his friends for dinner. And whatever is going on, he is acting like a complete a-hole. This would be a serious, you need counseling because you are acting batshit bananas for some reason and I have no idea why. Conversation. Agreed. What sort of thought process goes, oh my wife is making dinner. I am going to make it better by adding salt. You doesn't know about. Salt's usually on the table. You can add it at any time, to taste. And he is repeatedly and dependably ruining every meal he touches. If he wants more salt he can add it to his portion at the table. There's no universe in which he is being helpful, and how he thinks he is a mystery. Not to be that person, but can he taste and smell okay lately? Folks, we did it. It's gaslighting. It's real honest to God gaslighting. I have no idea what his problem is. He keeps saying, it's better this way, and it's better that way. It's tiring and he does not seem to know what he wants. But like other commenters have mentioned, you should probably test his senses. Try opening up a container of epoxy around him and you'll be able to test it pretty easily. Now if it isn't his sense of taste, then tag him that he'll eat every bite of every meal he ruins until he stops. Your last comment about him going out for dinner with his friends worries me though. Are you sure he didn't sabotage dinner on purpose so your parents would go home early and he could go out? Info. Does your husband agree with your assessment of your and his cooking skills? Yes, he hates cooking. He said it himself and it's one of the reasons he would not learn. He hates it. He likes my cooking but always thinks there's something I needed to add. And if he would prefer to cook, he can. If he would like to have things cooked differently, he can discuss it with you. Instead, he seems to be acting out in some sort of bizarre way. I mean, this really seems off the rails. Secretly altering your food when he claims to hate cooking, in a manner that embarrasses you, and potentially even jeopardizes your parents' health. I mean, part of me is thinking he is being in a hole, and part of me genuinely wonders if there's something psychologically going on that he needs to see someone about. ANTA, I worry about what else he is sabotaging in your home that you and your family consume or have contact with. That's awful and scary that he adds so much salt and spice to your parents' food. Was he trying to intentionally harm them? He sounds very controlling and I am worried for you. As to people asking if maybe there's an issue with his sense of taste, I think that's a bullshit excuse. I like everything really salty. I have a medical condition where adding extra salt is recommended, as I've been using a lot of extra salt on my food for 20 years now. Many foods don't taste salty to me that do taste well salted to others. Despite this, I know that others don't usually like that much salt. I also know that it's not uncommon for people to have medical issues where they can't have salt. Things like high blood pressure that can be affected by salt are very common conditions. When I cook, I only add as much salt as the recipe calls for, if any, and then add extra salt only to the foods on my plate. If I made a meal that was only intended to be for me and added a lot of extra salt, when my kids ask for a bite, I always warn them first about all the extra salt before they take a bite. I am going to guess that he is a control freak and feels threatened or emasculated by the fact that he has tried to cook and failed. So now he sabotages your cooking by adding his influence. ANTA, ding ding ding. Op's husband is being a total because he is jealous and petty and immature. ETA corrected word. Then went out to meet his friends for dinner. Wait, so even he didn't eat the food he improved. This is bizarre. ANTA, not really bizarre. My money is on the friend date being prearranged, and he does not want Op's parents to come over, so 2 birds, 1 stone. Poison Phil with salt. Ruin dinner so he does not have to make nice and double whammy. Maybe the in-laws do not want to come over anymore. Then he goes off for a dinner get-together with friends and leaves Op without dinner, to clean up the ruined meal, alone. Op, how would he have reacted if you have called up a friend to go have dinner with? 2. I am guessing badly. Take that lesson to heart. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. ANTA, your husband is behaving like an idiot. If he wants to season his food, ask him to take a portion out for himself so that he can season or under-season it to his heart's content. ANTA, that sounds a bit psycho actually. Why be all secret and put poison in the family food? He definitely wasn't trying to help. He is purposely over-seasoning and sabotaging food that you've prepared. If he wants more salt, he can add it to his own. No, he instead waited till you weren't looking and purposely added tons of extra seasonings and spice to your food without consent. And he is doing this after being asked not to repeatedly. WHY, no, he wasn't trying to help. He would have asked permission or talked to you while you were preparing the food with you present if he were trying to help. This is a very odd narcissistic sabotaging borderline gaslighting tactic. I do not know what's going on in your marriage, but something is up. I would not go to bed with him and I did demand a true explanation of his malicious actions, and maybe even pack a bag. I literally would not feel safe in a house with a man putting stuff in food like that. It's basically a lesser form of poisoning if he put so much that the food was no longer edible. What the actual F? ANTA, unless there's something going on with his sense of smell and taste. I have to wonder if this is some weird power move, especially since he's deliberately being secretive about it, and denying it in front of your parents. ANTA, he sounds like he really wants a divorce though. He is very, very clearly doing this on purpose, like crystal clear, like he may as well hire a skywriter. His actions have the same feeling almost as gaslighting, but not sure it meets the textbook definition of gaslighting. If it's not exact, it's damn near the same. He is sneaking, lying, knows exactly what he is doing, knows it's a big deal but is trying to convince you it isn't. Wondering what the heck he put in your food. I mean ANTA, but I want to know why he is doing it, and so far he hasn't given a real answer. He is tampering with food and that has nothing to do with being a bad cook. You need a sit-down conversation where you basically just listen. Silence that makes him uncomfortable is fine. If you do not get a satisfactory explanation and plan from him on how he is going to address the issue, then he needs to go to a therapist to get to the bottom of it. I hate to be the one to say it, but are you sure it's only salt and regular spices? This I'd what they re-eating, and I know I don't have a very sophisticated palate, but wouldn't you have to add a crap ton of salt to make things inedible, make someone sick? I can tell you what this meant in my relationship, which might or might not apply. My ex used to do this: sneak into the kitchen and add salt and spices and even sugar to the food I was cooking until it became inedible. I had to ban him from the kitchen and watch him like a hawk, or he'd be fiddling with the seasoning. It wasn't because he preferred it that way. He got a sick thrill out of forcing people to eat. He also made sure to buy food that was a good deal because it was disgusting and forcing people to eat it. There were some very memorable Sam's Club gnocchi we had to choke down because they were at good price, replacing peanut butter with a big jar of tahini for sandwiches because it was cheaper, etc. Meanwhile, he'd hoard all the candy holiday leftovers and the kids' trick-or-treat candy for himself. It was about control, and food was his favorite club to wield. Now that I think about it, he wasn't a cop, but he thought he should be, and did goofy things like call the police because the neighbor's dog ran up to the fence and barked at him, or commented a lot on what colors people were allowed to paint their house or whether their lawn met his standards. He'd have been a nightmare on an whole committee. So, ruining food on purpose to me seems like the step before forcing people to eat something disgusting, and the fact that he argues about it and is ugly, and that he does not stop wasting your time and ruining your visit is telling. The whole thing sounds like a control tactic, and I'd be very concerned if I were you. Is he controlling in other ways? Because if it's the case, do not have kids with him. Not kidding. My ex played his food games with our kids. I fought for years and he would not stop. And now all three have food issues and are in therapy for them, and a whole lot more. Like, none of them will eat in front of people. They terrified of food. They eat, but it's a secretive thing and a huge control issue for them. Even the suggestion they go ahead and eat their dinner will lead to a food strike. I would never leave the food out of my sight if my husband was like that. You need to have a serious talk. It's okay to want to experiment, but if he isn't the primary seasoner, he is always gonna duck it up by seasoning after you had, and he has got to learn from someone first rather than ducking up a meal as an experiment. That is embarrassing. Stop cooking for him. If he wants to play chef, he can cook for himself. Info 1. Has he said why he is doing it to the entire meal rather than simply adding to his serving? 2. Could you taste the excess salt or spices? Did you taste the food your parents could not eat? Others have pointed out COVID-19 as an explanation for a sudden loss or change in taste, smell, and BTW. Other viruses can do it too. However, your story is ringing bells of warning. Sabotage is an abuser-ass tactic. Are there any other red flags? The behavior you are describing is absolutely insane. Bonkers. If this is true, he has got to be mentally ill, or is passively aggressively telling you he hates you, or trying to make you think you are nuts. Jesus, this is a mess. If he acknowledges that he sucks in the kitchen, has tried to add spices to your cooking before with failed results, why keep trying, especially with your dad's blood pressure? Oh, so what? Because nothing happened, it's supposed to be okay. Then he ditches you to go eat with his buddies. Hard. But he needs to realize that he needs to stop before he makes someone seriously sick. This honestly sounds like Mike is verging on abusive control. Like, he is trying to control your ability to cook, and intentionally sabotaging your cooking so that he feels in control. It sounds abusive. This is really bizarre and concerning. It seems as if he is intentionally sabotaging your cooking. Was the decision for you to do all of the cooking completely mutual, or could he be harboring some kind of resentment? This is very concerning. What was in the bag? Is he hiding boxes of salt? Is he not eating the food he is altering? Repeatedly doing this is a choice.